Yo, 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 what's up, fam? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Scene with Teah. That's me. Happy Saturday afternoon. I am sitting here trying to record this podcast. There's a million things happening in the background. Everybody wants to cut their grass right now. My dog is barking. The kids are like, I need snacks. My daughter was just like, can I have Oreos? And I'm like, no, dude, no, we still have to eat lunch. So I'm going to try my hardest to get this podcast episode in before I get interrupted again by something. But I am so happy that you decided to come back and tap in with me today. We have been in a series called Cheat Codes for Women in Business. And let me just tell you, I have gotten such great feedback from those who have listened. Thank you so much for your support. I'm excited to tap into this episode today. Now, I have been struggling to figure out a good title for this episode because, as y'all know, there is a, politically correct way to title an episode, and then there is the hood way to title an episode. So, I'm going to just let y'all decide. If you would like to be of the crowd that wants the politically correct episode, then this episode will be titled Lean into Learning. But if you are on the other end of the spectrum and you want the hood version of the title, then it's going to be called When You Know Better, You Do Better. So I'm going to let y'all decide. And without further ado, let's get into it. This particular cheat code is very near and dear to my heart because anybody that knows me knows that I love to learn. And I think that I have proven that with my 17 degrees and certifications that I have gotten over my 35 years of life. So anybody that knows me knows that I'm a very educated young woman. I value learning. And the reason that I value learning is very simple. When you know better, you do better. And I have learned throughout my life that when you value education and you continue to learn, it helps you to do so much. You can go so far and be afforded so many opportunities if you continue to learn. I specifically wanted this to be one of the top cheat codes for women in business because I have run into some ladies who have been scared to lean into learning. And what I want to say to those women, especially if they are listening right now, is you can learn anything that you want to. You can be anything that you want to. All it takes is for you to apply your mind to it. And when you do that, you can do anything. Now, when I started my business officially last year, I was coming out of a corporate space and coming into entrepreneurship and having to run everything by myself. And let me just tell you, not only was that feat daunting, but I was looking at everything like, I don't know how to do all of this stuff. When I tell you that there is umpteen programs and platforms that I had to learn, listen, there were so many things that I had to learn and do that I was not prepared for. I had spent a lot of time learning procedure books, handbooks, how to evaluate people, how to investigate people. I did not know anything about setting up QuickBooks Online for accounting or setting up a HoneyBook client relationship management system workflows. I definitely didn't know anything about setting up the email sequences in Flowdesk because I was using MailChimp, and MailChimp is trash. So your girl came into her business needing to brush up on some things. And there is nothing wrong with that. So this is coming from an educated woman. I have a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, an associate's degree, a couple certifications, and I still needed to learn so much in order to effectively operate my business. And I am not ashamed to say so. That is why I wanted to talk to you about this subject today, because there are so many women who are leaning on the fence, tiptoeing around, or hopscotching over the fence of, should I invest in my learning? And I am here to tell you, yes, 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 please invest in your learning. Lean into it. So here are a couple of reasons that leaning into learning is one of the top cheat codes for you all. Number one, when you lean into learning, you understand that growth requires new skills at every level. What do I mean by that? I mean that you cannot get here with the same level of knowledge that you had when you were down here. Learning is how you level up. This is a lesson that I have personally had to learn over and over and over again throughout my career and even before I started my business. I would not expect to be walking into an HR manager role with the same level of knowledge that I had when I was a medical assistant. It just doesn't work. And so I've had to pick up some books. I've had to watch some things. I've had to listen to some things. I've had to take some courses. But you cannot expect to get from here to here with the same level of knowledge and the same understanding that you've had when you were operating at a different level or in a different season. Now, that's not to say that you can't take some of the skills that you've learned in your past and some of the things that you've experienced into these new levels. However, those things are building blocks. Those things are foundational, and you have to be open to taking in new information and learning new things and learning new skills to build on top of that. Now, there's this one saying in the church world where they say, new levels, new devils. Well, it's true, and it can be applied in any space. When you get to a new level, there will be things that you will be challenged by. There will be things that you will be faced with that you just may not know. So you have to be willing to be in a space where learning is essential to your growth and your development. You also have to be okay with the fact that you may not know everything going into a space, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that would be wrong with that part is if you stayed there. So the second thing to note here is that confidence comes from competence. Now, within the past decade or even two, there's this thing called imposter syndrome that everybody talks about. Simply put, imposter syndrome is a lack of confidence. It's the persistent inability to believe that your success is deserved, or that you have legitimate skills to get something done, or that your achievements are valid. And really, all that summed up is a lack of confidence. And there's so many women out here who have this imposter syndrome, and they allow this particular thing to keep them from showing up in spaces or keep them from moving their businesses forward. This psychological mindset thrives in the unknown. And when you own your own business, there's nothing but unknowns to deal with. And so your confidence comes from competence, and you gain confidence by learning. You gain confidence by throwing yourself into the space of building upon your knowledge about subjects, about your business, about the service that you provide or the products that you provide. When you have clarity about something like a service that you provide or a product that you provide, there is nothing like it. There is nothing like when you know that you know something. And I'll even say, for me in my business, when I am doing a branding session, I know that I know all of the different poses that we need to get to help these women show up well in their spheres of influence. When I sit down with some of my clients to do strategy sessions, I know that I know what's going to work to get them from level A to level B in their branding and what's not going to work. And I'm confident about that. And that's why my clients come to me, because they know that they can depend on me to help them to get from here to here. Why? Because I have the knowledge to do so. And it's because I've studied to get that knowledge. When you are confident about what you're doing or about the spaces that you are in, you stop second guessing yourself and you start showing up differently. You stop being the person in the corner and you start being the person that shows up to let everybody know what's what. The bottom line of this is that you really start showing up as the expert that you are. And that's what your clients want to see. That's what they're going to show up for. That's why your clients hire you, because you're able to do something or provide them something that they're not necessarily able to do themselves, or maybe it's something that they don't want to do themselves. When you lean into learning, you start to know your stuff, and that's what's ultimately going to continue to create space for you out here in these streets. Now, side note and caveat on this, sometimes that confidence comes from failure. Right? That failure is a lived experience that's going to inform you of what you did, that was wrong and what you need to do better next time. And with that failure, the next step from failure is becoming more confident, because again, when you know better, you do better. So now that you know what doesn't work, you can move forward into knowing, okay, I need to try something different. And before you know it, you're failing forward to success. I talk to so many women and peers of mine who experience a failure and then they stop. But what I would say and what I would encourage is that you take that failure and you let it propel you into confidence, because the more you fail, the more information you get about what went wrong and what you possibly need to do different. And that is where the competence comes from. See, this thing right here is what the scientists do very well. This thing right here are what the world-renowned surgeons do very well. They try stuff and they test things over and over and over again. And when they fail, they throw the failure thing out and they start over, but they don't stop. They keep going. And that's what I want to encourage my fellow women entrepreneurs to do. Keep failing, keep trying, keep moving forward, because soon what starts to happen is you start knowing some things, you start avoiding some pitfalls, you start moving a little bit different, you start showing up a little bit different. That is where the competence comes from. So yeah, to wrap that up, I will say it again. Confidence comes from competence, and a prerequisite to competence is failure. So we've talked about the first two things. Growth requires new skills at every level. Confidence comes from competence. And now the third thing I wanted to talk about is that innovation and creation lives on the other side of curiosity. And that is a really big reason to lean into learning. As you all know as well as I do, things change. They don't stay the same, right? We are in 2025 and there is something called AI, artificial intelligence, something that you would have never even thought would be such a huge deal 20 years ago. But guess what? It is, and it's prevalent, and it's something that a lot of people are fearful of right now. But let's just be honest, it's one of the ways of the future. And so when you understand that innovation and creation lies at the other end of curiosity, it propels you to start digging into things differently. Industries change fast. Algorithms shift, and boy, do they shift, like I swear every other week, okay? Trends and stuff, they fade away. But what I will say about this is that women who stay curious and who are committed to learning, they don't just keep up, they lead. When you are one of those people who are plugged into new knowledge and you're not stuck recycling outdated tactics and theories, then you become the one with the fresh impact. You become the one with the fresh vision, and you become the front runner and the one that everybody's looking to for the how to and the where do we go from here. And that's really where you want to be in your business. You want to be that go-to person. I mean, and I want to be that go-to person. And so we have to pursue learning consistently. So now that we've talked about some reasons why it's important to lean into learning, because when you know better, you do better. Now we're going to talk about the how. How do we do this? So some things that I have learned over the course of this last year and even prior is you have got to start watching some webinars or some YouTube videos to figure out these systems and these softwares that you don't know nothing about. I mean, I think I even mentioned 3 softwares that have given me a run for my money as far as being a business owner. And that was HoneyBook, QuickBooks, and Flowdesk, all of which I am proud to say that I am intermediate in now. I'm not advanced, but I'm intermediate. We're not at beginner level anymore, so that's something to celebrate. But your girl watched several YouTube videos. I signed up for, I want to say 10 different people's webinars, because let me just tell you, I want to not be confused when I log in to get business stuff done. I don't want to be sitting at my computer for 10 hours trying to figure things out. And let me just tell you, your girl figured out how to set up a welcome sequence, okay? And it is bomb. So do not be shy when you are signing up for webinars. Do not be shy when you are making a YouTube playlist to learn about a new software. Because once you figure out that automation, you will experience a level of freedom that you have not experienced before. And it will be the greatest feeling, okay? The next thing that you can do, read a book, pick up a book. Okay. Now, I just created this business toolkit of some of these softwares that I've learned to make my life easier and some books that I have read over the past year that have revolutionized my thinking as far as some of the things in my business is concerned and some of the things in my finances are concerned. Read a book. Right? We have libraries. You can get books for free. And if you don't like reading, listen to a book. There's Audible, which I can also recommend Audible for my listeners. I'll throw that in the show notes along with some other things to get you going. But listen, I heard it said before, and I don't know if it was my pastor. I'm pretty sure it was my pastor or somebody else that coined this phrase, leaders are readers, right? And I'm sure you guys can probably all say like, oh no, that was my pastor. Well, it was probably everybody's pastor that said that. But yes, leaders are readers. Reading not only challenges your worldview and your mindsets, but it broadens your perspectives. It opens up your brain to all of the different things that are in this world that you don't already know. Listen, I'm getting passionate about this. And I was just sitting here thinking about, you guys ever watch that show Reading Rainbow back in the day? Butterflies in the sky. I won't even start, but I can go twice as high. Okay, I started. Oh God. Take a look. It's in a book. I'm gonna stop because I don't know if I'm gonna get like demonetized or I'm gonna have to take this episode down for singing that song. But you know what I'm saying? Like, read a book. Reading is revolutionary. It will change your world. Right? Third tip, join a cohort or a group of women that you can glean from. This was really big for me. I know that you guys remember a couple episodes ago, I was talking about getting into a community. This is a part of that. There is something so special about when a group of women get together and they're just sharing knowledge. Like, we're just knowledge sharing, right? The experience is different. You get dialed in a little bit different. You pick up things that you wouldn't have even thought about for your business that you can implement immediately. And then you are sitting right there next to the person who can help you get that thing implemented. This is one of the things I really loved about going to Angie McPherson's branding retreat this year. Shout out to her. She actually has another one coming up this October. So if you don't know about it and you're a branding photographer, you need to go to that. We'll talk about that later. But that's one of the things I really loved about going to that retreat is that it was such an intensive experience where I'm surrounded by all these other women who are just learning things all at the same time. And then you're picking up what they're learning. Yeah, I mean, I cannot recommend it enough. It was such a great experience, but it doesn't have to stop at just going to a retreat. One of the other girls had a net walk happening. It was like a networking event where they're all walking and talking and doing things like that. Like, those are things that you can get involved in and that you can do for your business and for yourself to just learn in a different style. Maybe sitting down and reading a book is hard for you at times. It's hard for me at times. That's why I like listening to podcasts and Audible. I'm not going to lie, sometimes staring at a book is not my jam. But what I will say is that this is another avenue for you to still increase your aptitude for learning and taking in information that will help you to learn what it is that you need to learn so that you can do what it is that you need to do next. Okay? Finally, we are getting to my favorite encouragement, which is to get yourself a coach or a mentor that you can learn from. This was one of the very first things that I did when I started my business. I signed up for a business mentor, and I did that through our local Dress for Success. They have a woman-to-woman mentoring program, and when I tell you, like, the program is chef's kiss, I got exactly what I wanted in a mentor. And I was very specific on my form about what it is as a mentee that I was looking for. Shout out to Erica. She did her thing with pairing me with my mentor, Jennifer. Jennifer has added so much to me, being a mother, being a wife, being a businesswoman. She has touched so many people with her business. You know, I came out of the corporate space with some wounds from my boss being a gatekeeper. And I came into a space where Jennifer really showed up as that gate breaker. And that is something that I cherish. That is something that I value. That is something that I learned from her that I am adamant about doing for other women. In the 6 months that I spent with Jennifer as my dedicated mentor, I learned how to navigate the entrepreneurial space being a newbie. She is really someone who showed me, not just told me, but showed me how to move differently in spaces. She's someone who connected me and gave me the resources so that I could go out and build my business in a different way. So I really valued that about her mentorship style. The other thing that I really appreciated about her was that she was human. Like, she didn't just go through this mentor-mentee relationship robotically. She showed up in all of her humanity. There were some not so good days. There were some times that we had to reschedule. There were some times when the kids were taking her through the ringer, or when she was faced with some challenges in her own business. And she didn't hide that from me. She showed me that. And that is something that I value so much about her. Now, she wasn't just the only mentor that I had, though, because I don't just stop at one. I'm like, look, I need a group here of women that I can glean from. And so I also found an industry specific mentor, which again, Angie McPherson. Angie is also a branding photographer and an education coach, and she built this really amazing business over the several years. And she also has the background that I needed to learn from. And so I also just started consuming all of her content. Like, she's probably like, there goes this Teah again signing up for my freebie, or there goes this Teah again on my email list, or oh, there she goes again signing up for one-on-one coaching, or oh, there she is signing up again to come to the retreat. But when I tell you, when you find something that works and you find someone that really resonates with you. But as I wrap this episode, I do want to say, if you have not subscribed to this pod, I don't know what you are doing, but if you also have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. Go like, subscribe, share with another woman in business who you think can benefit from this information and these talks that we are having. I appreciate the support, but also I just want to grow this community. And be sure to check the show notes. I will go ahead and link to some of the resources that I mentioned in today's episode with some very special discounts for you, of course. But until we meet again, go and be bold and vibrant in your communities and your spheres of influence. I hope that you have a great Memorial Day weekend. Peace and love.